Hello, everyone. Don't know if you can see my slides. I'll wait just a second. Okay. I think we are live right now. I can't tell if we are or not. I'll give it a couple more seconds. Hello, everyone.
Sorry, everybody. We're having technical difficulties. Just please bear with us for 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you. Just give us just 1 second. While you are waiting, if you are in the chat, just tell us where you are from, where you're joining from. We always love to hear that. While we're getting everything up and running. Welcome, welcome. I'll post. I'm from. Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for joining. I'm originally from Woodbridge, Virginia. And right now I live in Atlanta, Georgia for 13 years. So I really should say Atlanta, Georgia is my home at this point. Got some from Connecticut. Give us just a couple more seconds.
Nita, you're ready. You're good.
I'm good. Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's one thing about technology. Technology can be friend, technology can be foe. Today, right now, it's our friend. Thank you all for joining. I'm talking about the books that root us to the earth and celebrate family, community, and identity. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Nita Creekmore, and I am a wife. My husband's name is Michael Creekmore. I am a mother to four amazing kiddos, ages 22, 20, 18, and 12. And I don't say I'm really busy. I say I'm just productive. I have four kids. So when they were younger, we were more busy. And now that they're off and spreading their wings, the older three, we're not as busy. I'm an author. I am the author of Read Outside Your Bubble, Expand Your Bookshelf, Expand Your World. And that book is about inclusive literature and how to do that, how to integrate that into your classroom. And then also co-author with my husband for Every Connection Matters, talking all about relationships in schools. I am a literacy lover. I am an inclusive literacy advocate. If you follow me, I'm on Love, Teach, Bless on most of the platforms. I talk a lot about integrating and really threading inclusive literature into all the work that we do in literacy education. I am a reader and I'm also a learner here. One of the quotes from my book I put here is, "It is the reading of the stories and listening to the stories of others that creates impact." And I truly believe that. I believe that it's the stories that we share, our personal stories, the stories that we read about in books, that truly can change the world. Inclusive stories in what we do each and every day. And so I'm going to just root y'all in some of my historical roots of my reading journey, just really quickly before I dive into the books, and my awe for the earth. And so that is Little Nita, Little Emanita is my full name, Emanita. And that is me now. And that is my awe of the earth. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So in thinking about my reading journey as now being a literacy educator and lover of reading, It didn't start off that way for me. I was a little girl who really struggled to read. I didn't feel seen in my elementary school until about the fifth grade. And I was seen by my fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Polidor, and she was my first Black educator that I had. And one thing I have to give just shout out to my mother and love for my mother for advocating for me to be in Mrs. Polidor's class. Because Ms. Polidor was really the first person in my education who saw who I was, who wanted to make sure that I became a reader and a strong reader and just a lover of books and a lifelong learner. And through the books, Babysitter's Club is where I learned my love of reading. And really when I met the character Jessie in Anne and Martin's books. And so that's really when I began to see myself, see that mirror there for myself, right? And the representation that I needed to really connect with books, to really see myself in books. And that was my bridge into just loving literacy. And so I share some of those books because that is the foundation of my literacy journey. My reading sprouts is what I like to call it. And I also talk about these books in Read Outside Your Bubble as well. And then I'm going to go into my awe of the earth. Now, I will say that I've always had awe when it comes to the earth and just how amazing nature, the earth, and just being just surrounded by that. But truly, the awe of the earth this year has really expounded. And so I'm just gonna tell you a little story about these pictures. And so if you look at the first picture, that was our school garden. I was tasked with the, I guess, leadership of changing our garden, transforming our garden. And I will tell y'all, I did not have a green thumb. At least I didn't think I did. And so I would try to have plants, I would try to have gardens, and it just would not work out very well for me. And so I was like, you want me to lead this task? And so, but the great thing about this garden, y'all, is that it's transformed here. And what I can tell you is I've had all of what the earth can do, but also all of the community that was built in transforming this garden. There has been so much community in this transformation, I will have to say, from the women who work in the cafeteria, from the women who work as custodians at our school, to the teachers, to the educators. I can honestly say, like, it's been a community effort. Like I said, I am growing to have a green thumb, but it's one of those things that I was leading, but I was also learning from others. And so this transformation was a community effort, which really leads us to some of the books I want to share with you, that's rooted in community, rooted in family, rooted in identity. Because honestly speaking, being a garden connoisseur was not something that I felt like was an identity marker for me until now. Identity markers can shift and change. And that's why I love the intersections, right? Because it wasn't gardening and being someone who can transform a garden wasn't something that I would put in my thinking about my intersections of my identity until now. Even though I'm a novice at it, I'm always a learner. And I was growing together in my community and doing that. And so I want to share some books that really just strengthen what I'm talking about, strengthening the impact of community, strengthening the impact of family, and then identity as well. And so the first book I'm going to share with you is this book, Awe. Okay. This book is written by Shannon Steele, Stifle, and illustrated by Susan Gall. And this is a beautiful, beautiful book that talks about awe. Okay. And so it just takes you through a breathtaking journey through the Grand Canyon to the sea, right? And it truly invites you to share in the moments of awe, right? In the chills that come up within your body when you have awe. Sometimes you get tears in your eyes when you have awe, right? And when you have, just this makes your spirit soar. And there are many times throughout this year that I've experienced awe and just thinking about the transformation of the garden and the community that we've had. And so Awe really is a perfect book to foster joy. And I think we really need that right now in thinking about where we are, in America and the world, we need awe, right? We need that awe. And sometimes you experience awe in community. Sometimes you experience awe alone, right? And sometimes you experience awe on a long walk throughout a garden or in a greenery space. And so this really is a book for empowerment and joy. And so I wanted to share this book because this is definitely, I've had a lot of experiences with awe. One thing I like about this book is that in the back of the book, it says this. It says, today and every day, let's welcome awe. Welcome those chills traveling down your spine. Welcome those sudden tears in your eyes. And also the authors include in the back of the book the scientific research behind awe, which when I read it to my students, they really like to hear that, scientific research there. And so the next book I am going to share with you is a book that connected to me. It was a book that I hadn't heard of before, probably about 4 months ago. Okay. And this book is called Harlem Grown. And it's a book that I read with my students in connection with the garden work that we've been doing with my students and everyone else in community. And so it's called Harlem Grown, How One Big Idea Transformed a Neighborhood. And it's by Tony Hillary. And this book right here, I have my sticky notes on it from when I was reading it with the students. This book right here is an amazing book about transformation. The reason why it connected with me so much is because Mr. Tony Hillary was also someone who would not tell themselves that they identify as someone with a green thumb. Okay. But the students talked about this ghost garden, a haunted garden across the street from their school. And he was working at the school at the time. And they decided to go to the haunted garden that was filled with really just, at the time is in Harlem, is filled with like trash or things like people would just kind of throw away. And what they did was they transformed that haunted garden into a source of just fresh and healthy food that they would give out in the community, teaching lessons that they would have throughout the day and also on the weekends, and then just community work. And so this one is truly grounded and rooted in community. And one thing I love about this book is that this is a true story. Like Tony Hillary took this idea that he had with students, and now he has a whole community and organization. And the organization is called Harlem Grown Organization. I decided to research it, look it up, because I was like so impacted by his story. And it really helped me and inspired me to continue the work of our school garden, to continue the work, because it's deeper than, yes, it's about the earth and growing things, but it's deeper than that, right? Because it's rooted in community. One thing I've learned about like this book, but also the work that we've been doing at my school, is that when you work together in community, impact transforms everything. And so what I have seen is that everybody having their hands in the garden, whether you are a teacher at the school, whether you are a student at the school, whether you're a leader in the school, everyone having that impact in the garden allows everyone to experience that awe, but also to come together in community, knowing that we can do this work together. And so this book is really, really a good book. It's one of the books that I love being introduced to new stories, new books that really connected with me. And so a quote here on the screen that came from the book is, once in a bustling neighborhood called Harlem, there was a man with an idea. There were kids who wanted to help, and they made a farm. And so this is from there. In the back of the book, it tells the true story connected to Harlem Grown there. And so one thing that you probably have seen a theme in so far in what the books that I'm sharing is like in Harlem Grown, I'm also experiencing that awe feeling that just what can happen when we come together. Another book, oh, this is also us here. This is me reading the book with the class. And so another book that talks about community work here is Kamala and Maya's Big Idea. And so this is written by Mina Harris, the daughter of Maya and niece of Kamala Harris. And so this book right here talks about the two sisters' big idea. And their big idea basically was to construct a playground here in their backyard. And so they did that in community. And one of the pages I want to read, which is a super cute page of a letter that they wrote to their landlord, this little letter right here. So funny. Dear landlord, right now the courtyard of our building is empty and no one uses it. If there were swings, kids could fly high. If there was a sandbox, kids could build. If there was a slide, kids could go so far, so fast. Can you build it, please? And so this talks about student advocacy, right? This is a true story as well. And so it talks about kids advocacy. One thing when I read with my students, I talked to them about them advocating for something that they felt like needed to happen in the community. And so one thing that in the back of the book, you'll see pictures of this book too. I love books that share like real pictures in the back of it, and students love that too. But it allowed them to see that having persistence and being an advocate and community organizing all in community helped to make change. They ended up building that playground in the back with the help of everyone in the community, putting their hand in there, wanting this for the kids in the neighborhood. And it allowed them to see that the maybes turned into real life impact. And they saw it building it in themselves. Well, and of course, I mean, Kamala Harris has turned into be the vice president of the United States. So who knows what advocacy, what path that will take you on. But one thing it does is it helps the students to know that they can create change. My students started having a discussion about what they can do to change in their community, right? And one thing I always tell them is like one drop can create a wave. One drop in the ocean can create a wave. And so that's one thing that I tell them all the time, that you may think that your advocacy or your letter doesn't make a difference, but it absolutely does. It absolutely does. And so this is another really great story talking about community impact there. So I have a quote here as well. It says, no one could do everything, but everyone could do something. And that's a quote that I'm taking in my life, right? In our lives, my life as an educator and what I do with students each and every day. And just being impactful in how I show up, impactful in the books that I decide to put in front of my students, the books I decide to teach with each and every one of my students, and how books can actually transform the world there. The next book I want to share is called You Are the Land, and this is a fairly newly released book. It's by Steph Littlebird. This is from Own Voices, and it's truly a joyful exploration of Indigenous culture. And it really talks about the child's loving relationship with her parents, but also with the land, right? That she and her family and ancestors supports and nurtures each and every day. So this book is really rooted in identity, right? And so this book here is an ode. It's an ode to thinking about belonging within a family, belonging within community, but also within nature, within our everyday life, what we walk on, which is the earth that we only have one of, right? And so this book talks about this little girl from the day she's born. Her family gives her the love that she needs. And he talks about how much they love her, how she's a part of something bigger, how she's a new spring leaf, alive and growing, and she's as strong as the ancient cedars there as well. And then this is one of my favorite pictures here. I don't know if you can see that there. But it also talks about she is one with the amazing forces of nature that surrounds her. And so what here is just a beautiful remembrance of her ancestors, of her family, but also a mirror for her, right? One thing that I loved about reading this book in my classroom is that I do have a student in my class who is Indigenous. And she came up to me after I read this book and said, I saw myself, like I saw me. And that's what we want. We want like our students to feel like they're seen in books. We want to make sure that we are showing them windows and mirrors and sliding glass doors, that work of Dr. Rudy and Sims Bishop, right? And so when she said that to me, I was like, yes, like that, I'm doing the work. That's what I want kids to see and feel. And even if they don't see themselves, do they see someone else? Right? Is there a window there or a sliding glass door? But this book really embodies beauty, it embodies resilience, and it was allowed one of my students, one of many, to see themselves as a mirror, but also my other students to look outside that window. So this is called You Are the Land, another amazing book that is really rooted. This one's rooted in identity. Identity. So one activity that we did, which was really powerful, in the book, it talks about being a placekeeper. How am I a placekeeper? And one thing that Steph Littlebird says is, she says, I come from a long lineage of placekeepers. Being a placekeeper means I'm not just connected to the earth, but I'm also responsible for its care and safekeeping. And so what I had my students do after we discussed the book is, how are they a placekeeper in this earth, in the earth that we have each and every day? And so they put sticky notes all around it on the board, and they talked about how they are place keepers in the earth. How are they keeping the earth and being connected with the earth? And I thought that was just an actionable way to, one, show up. How are you showing up for taking care of our earth? But also, what are you going to continue doing? And then what do you want to do that you haven't done yet to help to be a placekeeper here on the earth? And so that was a powerful activity. And one thing, of course, that they said was, our community garden, one thing that they're doing each and every day. So my next step was, okay, so what are you doing in your communities at home? And so they started to really generate some wonderful action steps to being a placekeeper on this earth. Another book that is rooted in identity and community is Seeds of Change. And so this book really, I don't know, it's one of these things that, me being Black and African American, I love to hear about the stories of transformation in my ancestry. And so Seeds of Change, Planting a Path to Peace, is written by Jen Collerton, but it's a picture book about Wangari Maathai. And so Wangari Maathai is a Kenyan environmentalist, and she was also the Nobel Peace Prize winner. And she founded the Green Belt movement, which helped to combat deforestation by empowering women to plant trees. And so this is a book that I read with my students, but it really tells about the inspiring work of Maathai and how she truly revitalized Kenya's landscape just by planting one tree at a time. And this is a quote from the book. It says this: like a seedling with sun, good soil, and abundant rain, the roots of our future will bury themselves in the ground, and a canopy of hope will reach the sky. The words that really stand out to me, especially right now during this time, is a canopy of hope will reach the sky, right? By planting seeds, we are planting hope. We are planting hope there. And so that is something that really stuck out to me there. And I want to share this story this is her right here. I want to share the story about the hummingbird. So I Will Be a Hummingbird is something that you can Google. It's a short story about a hummingbird that sees a forest fire happening, and all the animals, the giraffes, the elephants, all the big animals that could do something more, were just standing there helpless. And so what the hummingbird is doing is going to the water, getting the water, putting it in its mouth, going and putting it on the fire, and keeps going back faster and faster to just a little drop of water every time. And so the big animals are looking at this hummingbird like, well, why are you doing this little thing? You're not even making any drop there. What is happening? Right? And they continue to discourage the hummingbird. But what the hummingbird says is, I am doing the best I can. And so she shares this story about one drop in the ocean, right? Be the hummingbird, be that one drop. And so the last couple of books I want to share fairly quickly is See Marcus Grow. This is rooted in family. And See Marcus Grow is written by Marcus Bridgewater. And this is his other book right here that he wrote as well. How to Grow, Nurture Your Garden, Nurture Yourself. And so this is about a young boy who's with his grandmother in the garden and learning about the garden, as that's the place that she is always in. And so he wanted to learn more, but he also builds a connection with his grandmother there. And this is a true story. And one thing is a quote at the end that he has a letter to his grandmother. And he says, "Grandmother, the seasons will come and go. The world will change, but the lessons you shared would stick with me year after year. May you rest in peace, and may many others be inspired to be stewards of the earth." And so this book is a story about Marcus and his grandmother having connection, but also she taught him to be a steward of the earth, right? To ground themselves in the earth. The last two stories I want to share with you is Lala's words. Lala impacted her community as well. And the reason why I said this is rooted in family is because Lala ends up being a change maker in her community. She ends up building a garden. Lala does. And Lala's words is here. It's a wonderful, wonderful story of impacting community, but also rooted in family with she and her mother. And then the last one is an amazing book called City Summer, Country Summer. It's a children's book about three Black boys from different backgrounds. One's from the city in New York, and the others are from Mississippi. And they're visiting their grandparents, and one's visiting their aunt in the country. And this book is really grounded in just Black boys living and thriving together, building community together in grandma's garden. And so this is a wonderful story that really celebrates the themes. Oh, the story's right here. I'm putting the wrong story up. This story really celebrates the theme of kinship, identity, and just love, even though they came from different areas, summer, city, and the country during the summer there. I know that was fast. I hope you got to write down some of the books, but thank you for joining books that really root us to the earth and celebrate family, community, and identity. Reach out to me anytime. Love, Teach, Bless, and I would love to connect with you. Remember to pay it forward. Pay the joy forward by either donating to Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, Freedom to Read Foundation, or the Trevor Project. Thank you for joining.